Hi, it's David Casino. In this episode, we're going to embark on a brand new project. We're going to build a new app from scratch, from the ground up. The app is called Brain Dump. And at the end of this episode, we're going to get started with a little bit of coding. We're going to set up sort of the blank canvas that the app will live in, so we have something to build upon. And then in subsequent episodes, we're going to start adding features to it. Okay, so what is Brain Dump? Brain Dump is just an app, again, something that I've always wished that I had. I have a lot of ideas. My brain's always buzzing, and I just want to get those ideas out of my head before I forget them. I might be going for a walk in a crowd, and I'm ruminating over something, and I think, oh, it'd be cool to remember this, but I don't want to take out my phone and type it in and all that. The app will be voice to text, so you just press a button, you do your brain dump, and it's going to capture that message, that thought, along with a timestamp. Okay, once we have all the brain dumps, we're going to use AI to do interesting things with them. Number one, being able to retrieve it in the future is paramount, right? What's the sense of writing a note if you can't find it later? Create connections between the different ideas. So if you have a bunch of ideas for a project or a creative thing you're working on, a song, a new app to build, whatever it is, it'll be able to capture the notes from all over the place and just summarize them into one place. So you can say, hey, tell me all the ideas about this song that I was thinking of, and it'll be able to synthesize that, and also being able to augment your ideas, right? Being able to expand upon them using AI. So you can give it a few kind of seed thoughts, and then the AI could potentially expand upon it. Anyway, a lot of possibilities. We'll see where it goes. But the main thing is we need to be able to capture the data, and then we're going to try to use AI to make it more interesting when we consume the notes later. Okay, let's get down to coding. We're going to create that shell app, and I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, for this app, we're going to use Flutter. Flutter is a project that was created by Google, and it's a way you can write an app and it'll work on a web page, it'll work on an Android device or an iPhone. So you write the code once and then you can run it on all these different platforms. So it's a really great way to streamline your time. I've used it on products that were used, by thousands of students in academia, and it scales really well. It's highly performant. Big fan of Flutter. You can just download it from their website. Once you have Flutter downloaded, it's time to create an app. So pretty simple. You just say Flutter create, and you give it a name. So we're working on something called Brain Dump. So I'll just type that there. And it's going to go ahead and generate a bunch of files for you. I'm going to go into that directory, which is called Brain Dump. So it creates a new folder called Brain Dump, because I said Flutter create Brain Dump. And now we're going to open Cursor, the AI code editor that we'll be doing in the other episodes. So you just say cursor, dot meaning the current folder that I'm in, and it should open up Cursor right here. And there we go. So Cursor's now open. You can see all of our files here. You can see main.dart is really the only code that it's written. And it's barely any code, like most of these are comments. And this is going to create sort of their Hello World app, which is just a counter. And when you click on the button in the counter, it will increment a number. So it's like a very simple app, and it's a good place to start if you're building a Flutter app. You can kind of create this project to get all the kind of absolute bare minimum files that you need, and then you can just strip out, whatever sample code they put, and then you can start building your app. Before we do that, I want to show a quick feature that Cursor has. This is where I do most of my work in Cursor. It's sort of the chat window, and you tell it which files you want it to look at. So I'm in main.dart, which is the application's entry point. And I could just say, what does this app do? Let's say you get dropped into a new project, you've been programming for a long time, and you have to start working on someone else's code. This is a great way just to get familiarize yourself with whatever that code's already doing. And since we have a sample app, you'll see that it does that. Right now, Anthropic is experiencing a partial outage, so it's going to fall back to the OpenAI model. This is not great. I do not like using the OpenAI model for coding, but we'll give it a try. This is a very simple exercise today, so hopefully OpenAI's model will be sufficient. But as you're reading the description here, it just tells you what it's doing. This app, it's the main entry point. It's a stateless widget. All right, this is a little bit too detailed. I like Claude's interpretation later. But in summary, this app displays a counter on the screen and increments the counter each time the floating action button is pressed. The counter value is updated and displayed in real time. Okay, so that's a pretty good summary. You'll see here in Cursor, if you use Visual Studio Code, it's virtually the same exact interface. We have this Run tab. So I always like to create a launch.json file. So this just makes it easier to run your app. Let's say you want to have you want to deploy it to an iPhone simulator, you want to deploy it to uh, Google Chrome. This just kind of creates a nice little template for you that you can then edit to give it more specific things. So we have the ability to run it in standard mode, profile mode, or release mode is important when you want to run this on your own device. I have an iPhone, so whenever I run it on my personal iPhone, I run it in release mode. And then after you disconnect your iPhone, the app still lives on your phone. So it's cool. Let's say you're coding for a little while and you make some progress, but you want to go to lunch or you have some other errands to do. You can take the app with you and kind of test it while you're waiting in line at Starbucks, for example. So now that we have this launch JSON, we can come over to this menu here and you should be able to run the app. It looks like it's trying to run it on my iPhone. So we're going to run it on Chrome. You see all those three different options I showed you earlier. So we had the release mode. Again, that's if you're running it on a device. Profile mode is if you're trying to debug or check out performance issues. And this is kind of like your standard run. So I click this green arrow here, and it's going to attempt to run this in Google Chrome. So it should pop open a browser in a second. And there we go. All right, so you can see this is their demo homepage. I didn't write any of this code. This kind of comes with Flutter when you install a new app, when you create a new app. And if I click this counter button, you see the number goes up each time I click it. Really quick, I want to show you what this looks like on an iPhone. So I can close this. It should kill the app momentarily. If not, you can always force kill it by hitting this kind of stop button. And if you look down here in the bottom right, these are all the different devices you can deploy it to. So we just saw it launch on a web page, but I have an iPhone simulator up right now. And it's this iPhone 15 Pro. Okay, that's this simulator right here. And this comes with Xcode. If you download Xcode, it comes with the simulator. You're going to need Xcode anyway if you're developing for iOS, for iPhones, because you need it to deploy to the App Store and things like that. So you definitely want to get Xcode. And let's run it on this device. So I've already said to run on the simulator. We can run it in regular mode. We don't have to run it in release mode for the simulator. And again, I just click this play button. Now this is going to take a little bit longer. Flutter has to build the app so that it's compatible with an iPhone. And it's actually calling Xcode's build method, right? So it's running Xcode, which I have installed right here. And it's going to basically tap into Xcode to build it for the iPhone. And there it is. So on the simulator, we now have the same app that we just had in the web browser and still works. I can click the button and we have our kind of sample app. All right, so let's stop this. And now that we have sort of Flutter's example project going, let's just strip all that stuff out. Like we want to build this app from scratch and there's not a lot of code in here. This is mostly comments. So let's use Cursor's built-in chat interface to kind of clean this out a little bit. So I am building a new app called Brain Dump. I'm just typing here in the Cursor's chat interface called Brain Dump, and I want to modify this sample Flutter app to reflect the name change. And let's just do one small change at a time so you can see kind of the iterative process to reflect the name change. And let's just see if it changes, some of the visual appearance of this app. All right, so it's going through, it's looking at my code. And you can see already it changed the title to Brain Dump, whereas before it was like Flutter Demo App or whatever they put in there. I still got the counter stuff. We didn't tell it to take that out yet. So this all looks good. So I'm going to hit apply. And we can see that it's gotten rid of a lot of these comments, which is great. We don't need all this. It's changed the name, gotten rid of comments, Okay, this looks pretty good. We'll hit accept. Okay, so it's made those changes. And let's run it. And we can run it on the simulator again. Typically, I like to run it on Chrome. The refreshes are a little bit faster in my experience, but it also works pretty well on the iPhone. Okay, so now it says Brain Dump Home. That's an improvement. And it's changed the color schemes to green. I didn't ask it to do that, so that's kind of random, but It is what it is, and it's good enough for now. All right, so we're going to leave this running. I want to test the hot reload feature. Sometimes if you just save your code in Cursor, it'll just automatically update here. So I'm going to actually get rid of brain dump home, just say brain dump. And I'm going to save, which is Command S. And yeah, you see it instantly reflected. So now it just says brain dump here. Okay. All right, let's take this a step further. I'm going to say, I'd like to remove the floating action button. I could probably just say, but that's this button down here. Oh, that's cool. It actually made it a light bulb. I didn't even notice that. It's actually not bad. I'd like to remove the floating action button and the logic that updates the counter. All right, let's see if it can help us scrape some of this stuff out that we don't need. Okay, again, it's telling me Anthropic's down. I've been getting this a lot lately. I'm not sure what's going on with Cursor and Anthropic. It's Claude is the model I like to use, and that's from Anthropic, so it's falling back to OpenAI. And okay, it removed the dump count. It removed the floating action button. It updated the body to a scaffold to display a welcome message. Added a size box for spacing. Okay, this looks pretty good. So we're going to apply this. Hit apply. And you can see the changes here. And if you've ever worked with Git before, this is a similar interface where you can kind of see things that are removed are in red, things that are added are in green. And so let's go through each line by line this time instead of just applying all. So it looks like it's getting rid of the dump count. Great. So you just click this Y button here. All right. It just changed this message to welcome to brain dump. That's fine. Start dumping your thoughts. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, and here it got rid of this floating action button, this button in the lower right corner. All right, so that looks pretty good. Let's save it. And if you look over here, it instantly scraped out all that stuff. So there you have it. We have a very basic shell that we can now build upon. We're obviously going to add a lot to this. This is just the bare minimum canvas to start painting on. I think in the next episode, then what we want to do is just add a microphone button, and we'll start doing the speech to text. Thanks for watching.